Protesters have again gathered in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, to call for President William Ruto's resignation. Police fired tear gas at demonstrators. They made several arrests. This comes while the president was overseeing the swearing in of a new cabinet. At least 60 people were killed in the protests, which began in June. Many rights groups accused Kenyan police of using excessive force. For more on this, let's go to Malcom Webb. Malcom's joining us live from Nairobi. Malcom, I think I recognize the streets of the CBD behind you, the Central Business District. What's happening now?
Well, there are groups of protesters of several dozen who've been trying to gather. You can hear them not far away, but each time they do gather, the police fire tear gas and rubber bullets to disperse them. The approach of the police seems very much to be to try and stop any crowd from gathering at all. You can see a police vehicle coming here, so let's just turn the camera around and take a look. And then this vehicle, let's have a look. So these officers wear plain clothes. The number plate of their vehicle is blacked out. So we don't know who these men in plain clothes are or who they are. This is one of the things that the demonstrators have criticised, as well as being very critical of an excessively violent police response to any attempt to protest. The people here have been angered by that swearing in the new cabinet that you mentioned. William Ruto earlier today swore in some of the same ministers that he'd
Wait, hold on, Malcom. Malcom, pause for a second.
A couple of weeks ago, when in response to the...
Do you want to make sure, first of all, do you want to make sure that you're in a safe space, because we see these bangs going out behind you? Are you where you need to be right now? That's number one.
Yeah, we're okay. They're firing tear gas. Fortunately, we're equipped. We've got gas masks. And so we are okay reporting here. These are the kinds of.
So what we're seeing now is this typically Malcom how security forces have been clearing the streets of Nairobi.
Yeah, I mean, in recent weeks it has been, and when these protests started, then the police also tried to stop any demonstration from even happening. On the days in late June and early July, when very large crowds gathered, the police simply weren't able to disperse them before they grew so big that on the 25th of June we saw them actually enter Parliament. Now that was the day that William Ruto, or it was in the days following that President William Ruto retracted that controversial finance bill, that government plan to raise taxes. It was also the day that dozens of protesters were shot dead by the police. Now, since then, we haven't seen crowds that are nearly as large, but the protesters have been persistent, coming back week after week, and they are chanting, "Ruto must go," and they're also very critical of this new cabinet. They just say it's one of many signs that shows that President William Ruto, they say, hasn't listened. Because they say that this cabinet, which includes reappointing some of the old ministers as well as bringing in a couple of people from the political opposition, is a clear sign that there is no change, and that they say, the demonstrators say, that the endemic corruption that plagues Kenya, which is one of the things that made people so angry in the first place, they say that persists.
Malcom, you were explaining, and we said at the top, that the president was swearing in a new cabinet today. So first of all, I'm not sure whether that's finished, whether he was able to complete that. But secondly, typically that's the kind of move that is done to give the president political space, right? When you change the political personnel. Clearly that has not worked.
Well, when he fired the whole cabinet, then many of the demonstrators said that, it was an opportunity for a change of direction. They were calling for the appointment of technocrats, people who they say are qualified to run the various ministries and the different departments. So they're very disappointed that the reappointments all seem to have been political appointees. Several of them are people who were ministers before. I'm going to step aside so we can see what's happening, so I can keep an eye on what's happening. And then also three ministers appointed from the political opposition. Now, these demonstrations were never led by the political opposition, and the demonstrators say that they're not affiliated to any party, to any political group, to any ethnic group, but President Ruto's attempt to cut the political opposition into government is widely seen as a way of sharing the access to state resources, which is widely seen to be one of the perks of being involved in politics in Kenya. Many politicians grow very rich, and as a way of preventing the possibility of an impeachment from Parliament, which was following these calls by the protesters. They say Ruto must go. One of the few ways that could actually happen before the next election would be a parliamentary impeachment. But if the opposition are in line with the ruling party, then the chances of that are very slim.
Can you explain to us what it is that we're seeing right now? Where are you in Nairobi? And is this a typical scene? Is this typically the way that security forces clear the roads, prevent the protesters from gathering, and the protests from swelling to larger numbers? That's what it looks like.
So we're in the central business district. So we are. It's in these very streets, these very blocks. It's just a couple of blocks away from Parliament, where the protests have taken place week after week since late June. And yeah, these are the tactics that we do keep seeing. The police firing. Let's take the camera over here. We can see one of these canisters smoking. So even the smallest number of demonstrators gathering, then the police fire tear gas, sometimes rubber bullets. They make some arrests, and it seems that they don't want any kind of demonstration to happen.
But are the protests officially forbidden?
Well, it's Kenya's constitution guarantees the right to demonstrate. At some points, the police have said that they will uphold that right. That contradicts what we often see here on the streets. This will explode, I think, in a moment. It seems in practice that the police don't want people to demonstrate. Now, as we mentioned, the days that the very large crowds gathered, on those days the police tried to disperse them before they grew big, but they weren't able to because the numbers were so large. And the demonstrators certainly say that they are not being allowed their constitutional right to protest and to picket. And then they say that also the spate of abductions, the dozens of people who've killed, the people who've gone missing, are also a significant infringement on that constitutional right. They say that the campaigners say that that's sort of an authoritarian crackdown on the part of the government that's meant to deter anyone from protesting at all.
Right, Malcom, listen, thank you very much. We've been listening to every word that's come out of your mouth in the last few minutes. Thanks for walking us through that. That's Al Jazeera's Malcom Webb in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, just a few blocks away from Parliament. And you've seen over the last few moments, security forces pretty aggressively clearing protesters and any groups of demonstrators that attempted to gather there in the center of the capital.